I've always thought us business owners can learn so much from the hospitality industry around customer service, customer experience, local area marketing, and so much more. That's why when I heard about multi-million-dollar publican Stephen Hunt, who started his 7-hotel empire from his parents' backyard with $100, I just had to get him on the show. It's episode 590, full of one-percenters of the 12-year-old, award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Tim Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of beer-soaked marketing. Yuck. I'm your host, Tim Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. How do I do that? By having in-depth conversations with successful business owners from around this crazy, crazy world. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner. You're well and truly ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire that it absolutely deserves to be. And that's exactly why this show exists. So well done to you for tuning in. A big thank you. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, quick update. Apologies, I am sorry for my absence. There has been a bit going on in my business life. I'll fill you in on it down the track. But yeah, suffice to say, not everything goes to plan all the time, does it? Because if it did, it'd probably be boring. Anyway, had a couple of hurdles to navigate. I will fill you in at some point. I also think I've got COVID. I'm getting a test result this morning, but, you know, there's always something to deal with, isn't there, in this bloody world? That sounds negative. It's not. Hey, thanks to all those who attended the 2 customer attraction webinars I ran this week with past guest John Dwyer. They were so well attended and so well accepted, and the idea John shared around customer attraction, incentive-based marketing, it was awesome. I'm sorry that you missed it if you did. Never miss another thing I put in. I'm going to be doing some webinars, more webinars in the future. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, sign up for my free ebook. It's called 10 Marketing Wake-Up Calls, and then you're on my list and you'll find about everything I'm doing going forward. And a big welcome to all the new tribesters on Facebook. We've got now over 2,000 motivated business owners, and that's another way you can find out what's happening in the small business big marketing world. Stephen Hunt started his life in hospitality by setting up a $100 beer garden in his parents' backyard. Fast forward to today, and that little beer garden is a $100 million pub empire with 7 establishments up and down the New South Wales coast, and which was recently awarded by the Financial Review. This is no small feat, one of Australia's most innovative businesses. So pour yourself a quiet one as Stephen shares the ups and downs of growing his empire, why a staff member earning $50,000 per annum is worth $1 million to the business per annum. That's a really interesting philosophy he's got. How he and his 250 employees work hard to ensure even the littlest things are taken care of. You know how much I love the one percenters, guys. His secret to engaging the local community, a bit of local area marketing, plus how he turned his ADHD into a superpower. Like I said, I think no matter what industry you are in, we can learn a lot from those in the hospitality industry. Here's Stephen talking about those early days. Stephen, I want to start off, you started off with a $100 beer garden in your parents' backyard. What did that look like? What was that all about?
Well, it's one of those things that just evolved. So my parents built this space out the back of where we lived, and I'm not sure if it was intended to get myself and my siblings out of the house, but we had family barbies there to start with.
Right.
And then my parents would go away when I was 16.
Here we go.
You know, for a couple of weeks here and there. So obviously that opened up the gate to invite all of the buddies around. And so we started doing it and it just got bigger. So started off with just the guys we played footy with, and then we had everyone there in the end. You know, we had guys who were good at tech. We had the netball girls.
Were you charging?
No, well, we eventually did because people would leave their beers there. And so they'd turn up, people would turn up without any beers and we go, oh, well, we'll just sell them to you for $2 a pop.
Great.
So the gross profit margin was awesome because we weren't paying for them. We were selling them for $2.
How'd the neighbours go?
Well, they were okay until one time there was a development behind our house and we decided to use it as a rubbish tip for all the bottles and cans. We thought we'll lob that into all of the demolition work that was going on and just sort of morph in. And then our fence fell down. So it just exposed, hundreds of cans of, VB and whatever else we could get our hands on. So not well.
So, Stephen, I want to fast forward to today, 2022. Where's the business at? Where is Hunt Hospitality at? Lose all humility. Tell us, what do you got? Turnover, number of staff, number of pubs. Just give us a sense of size.
Yeah, so at the moment we've got 7 pubs across New South Wales. So we start at Newcastle and we end at Coffs Harbour.
Right.
So it's probably...
Nice part of the world.
Yeah, it is lovely. Yeah, so I guess it's probably over 400 Ks that we cover.
Uh-huh.
And we've got a pub in Newey, then we've got one in inland at Maitland where I live, then we've got one at Nelson Bay, Harrington, then the next one is Port Macquarie, and then the final one's up near Coffs.
Can you talk turnover or staff numbers?
Yeah, staff numbers were in excess of 250. Turnover, I think, is probably well over 15 mil.
It's a big progression since the $100 pub in your backyard. How does it make you feel when you reflect on that journey so far? Are you surprised?
Yeah, kind of, because we're just very focused on just doing the best you can every day. Like, you have business people who go, oh, it's not the right time, and we're just like, well, look, if we focus on looking after our customers and all of our team do, like our ethos is to make people's day, so people come in and we want them to feel better when they leave. So it's just more from that. And then at the same time, by getting myself educated and having great mentors and old bosses, like I always call it, put yourself in the right room.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get employed by really smart people, you'll pick up a lot. So by focusing on that, then things have just grown. And then a bit of a finance background, not trading in finance, but actually just learning about it.
Yeah,
that sort of got us to where we are today.
Geez, buddy, there's a lot in there that I need to unpack. First of all, at what point did you have a plan, or did you never have a plan? Did you just go, hey, we need to buy a pub, the big garden at the back of Mum and Dad's, it's getting a little bit crowded, we need to buy a pub, and then you just bought a second pub? It just sort of happened, or is there some kind of concerted effort here?
Yeah, so I'd been in the industry for many years, working for various different people who had multiple venues. I worked for a lovely family group. They're still friends of mine. I still contact them. I started out as a glassy prior to that, and then I ended up being the licensee of a pub that was owned by my family, and it wasn't a very big one, so we literally had to do everything. That's where I learned, we had to clean the pub because our cleaners tried to put the price up. On a Monday, my chefs were really tired and they said, Steve, we need a day off, so we're thinking of shutting on Monday. We're like, we don't shut. So I learned how to cook. So I cooked on the Monday, probably the largest case of food poisoning in the history of the world. Vegemite sandwiches were high on the menu. But
oh, geez.
And then we bought the Kent Hotel with a family with partners 20 years ago, and I'm now the owner of this hotel. Mm-hmm. And when I hit a certain level of expertise in this pub, I went, I need to learn more again. Mm-hmm. So I was seconded to work for a fund called the Independent Pub Group. And my boss there was a champion bloke. He taught me a huge amount. And then at the same time as doing that, I started educating myself more. So I'd already done a diploma in hospitality management, which then led to a master's of business, which led to a grad cert in applied finance. And they're all building blocks, and then that led me to Harvard.
Hang on. Now, our listeners weren't privy to the conversation we had prior to hitting record on this conversation. However, we were both explaining to each other that we were pretty hopeless students at school. You're busted copying your mate's assignment, and your teacher catches you. And all of a sudden, you're now telling me you're going through this incredible education process and you end up in Harvard.
Was that about the fact that, broadly speaking, you're not that interested in learning, but when it's about something you have a specific interest in, it's all guns blazing?
Yeah. And I think my confidence grew because at school I never really thought I was a good student. And then wanted to educate myself in a field that I did enjoy. Apart from applied finance, I don't think anyone should ever do that or be put through that. It's like
I think anything with the word applied in front of it's just, I'm not going near that.
Yeah, I was, because I did it when I was older, the classroom was full of, mathematical geniuses, and then you got this meathead bloke who's sitting there and 15 years older than the next oldest person in the classroom. So, but each step, my confidence grew, and after a couple of successes, then I thought, and it was always Harvard in our house was always revered. It was always
in any house.
Yeah, it was just it was like the hallowed turf for education. So I sort of got up the courage and thought, I'm going to have a crack at it and do an executive ed course there. And that was mind-blowing. So the people there's a lot of billionaires in the room, and there's a lot of self-made people, and also people with family history, and they're all very humble. They're all really good people to talk to, and they share their experiences. It probably wasn't the written work. I'm probably better at the people side, and that gets me through, as opposed to getting really high HDs in my...
So as part of that education process, particularly as you get to the higher echelons and get to Harvard, is it more for you about the networks that you create, the people that you meet, and the stories that they tell outside of the classroom? Because I imagine there's a lot of theory there, and you just don't appear to me, with all respect, as being a kind of theory-based guy. You are a guy who opens the door in the morning and applies a whole lot of stuff that he's learned from his family and his friends and his mentors and his networks.
Yeah, it is more the conversations outside of the room, because I've got ADHD, and I didn't actually take any medication for years. Probably I lasted 48 years and 3/4. So,
and then you pop the pill.
Yeah, then I eventually went. And so I used to manage it through exercise. Mm-hmm. So with the Harvard experience, for me to actually... such a simple thing, and I've been on Chambers of Commerce and all sorts of meetings, is to get involved, you just take notes. You don't think, oh, God, I don't want, especially for the people who are a bit younger, get involved in the conversation. So the more notes you take, which means you're concentrating, which then means you can contribute.
Yeah, got it. And
I do it in board meetings and just take my notes and then can come back to it. But it's such a simple thing. But for me, really, it's always the conversation.
Stephen, you talk about mentors. So there's already a couple of things. I mean, one is I don't think enough of us business owners actually go and educate. We get stuck into our businesses, we get busy, and then we forget to work on our business and on ourselves. So the great lesson there. The other part of that you mentioned is mentors. Again, I'm surprised at how many business owners I speak to that don't really have someone to bounce off. So maybe some are paying a coach a lot of dough. A mentor to me is someone who offers up their advice or services. Come and have a coffee once a month and just, chew the fat. How have you gone about attracting mentors into your life?
Through working with the right people and intelligent people and building a good relationship with them. It's funny, they love to see you flourish as long as you're not their competitor. So they really want you to go well. And when you ring them, and former team members of mine ring me up, it's a little bit of a compliment. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much, probably it's more of an informal process where everyone who I've worked for, I could call up in a different situation and go, okay, well, that was a family business and they had multiple venues, so I'll ask them about those particular things. And with funds, I asked my old boss who was good with, fund management, and he if he doesn't know, he'll just pass me on to the right people. Mm-hmm. So it's probably a less informal one, and also you can do that, like if people are starting out, it's really sensible to join your associations, whether it's restaurant and caterers, if you have a restaurant and your chambers of commerce. So you start smaller and you just start talking to more people, and all of a sudden your confidence builds because your knowledge gross.
I see this. I speak at a lot of I do keynote speaking and emceeing at a lot of Chambers of Commerce events, and I observe time and time again there's a certain type of person that goes to those events that benefits hugely because they're not out there trying to give as many business cards out as possible. They're not out there pitching. They're out there being curious and asking questions and being helpful to others and giving advice. And those environments are invaluable when used correctly.
Well, that's right. And you're actually in a room full of people who generally aren't paid, and they're contributing back to their local community. So they're givers, they give themselves to the community in that way. So sometimes there's a benefit, but generally speaking, there's no physical or tangible benefit.
Yeah. Stephen, you mentioned earlier that you have this ethos inside Hunt Hospitality that is quite simply you go to work each day to make people's day. I think this is such an incredibly powerful practice to have some kind of emotional call to action as opposed to I'm a pub owner, I'm a publican, because that doesn't say a lot, right? But you've sort of flipped it. Is that something that you carry with you throughout your day? It's just part of your DNA. I'm guessing it is. And how do you then transfer that across and communicate it to 250 other people that you employ?
It's leading by example. So if I'm in one hotel now, and if I pop down there and pour a couple of beers, which I don't get to do as often, but even if I'm walking through the bar and I'm talking to locals, if you set that example, they will follow. Our most successful pubs have been where they've come through the building I'm in now called the Kent. And it's a late trading pub and it has its issues with that and its challenges. But all the guys who've been the most successful and who've moved on from here, I think there's only one of our pubs where they haven't worked here, they've learnt that ethos. So it's setting the example and then teaching people and mentoring them through that, which then gets them, just has a really good flow-on effect.
Yeah. Such a powerful way to sort of look at, what you do day to day in the business. I don't know whether you use the phrase 1%ers, but you're very big on getting the little things right. I saw something in one of your press releases, even when not working, you constantly have your business radar on. So you see and implement ideas from unrelated businesses all the time, which is, I love that. I'm always encouraging, when I'm giving one of my keynotes is around helpful marketing, and I'm like, guys, have your marketing radar on as of right now. And listen to the questions that your prospects and your clients are asking, and listen to the problems they're trying to deal with that you might be able to solve. Can you just add anything to that as to how can we get other business owners to be constantly looking inside unrelated businesses for ideas for their business?
Oh, absolutely. That is crucial for your growth, because two things you can find out. One is how to do things and the other is how not to do things. So they're equally important. I've been to some venues where 1%er for me is light globes being on, and those light bulb moments or light globe moments.
Yeah.
For me, it was the first pub I worked at, and my boss made me change them all the time.
Yep.
Normally I was like 18 and hungover, but it wasn't fun getting up on a ladder. But what he was really teaching me was to pay attention to all of the small things and get them right.
Yep.
And so if I go into a venue now and see a light globe out, kind of go, oh, okay, fair enough, might just be an off day.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go in there again and the same one's out, I'm like, they're missing a lot of the small things.
Mm.
And then in terms of marketing, seeing what other promotions people are doing, it can be in accounting, it can be, and you'll learn that through the associations and chats you have with people.
Mm-hmm.
And then back to mentors, because you can go, well, we tried this promotion and that worked, or observation on Instagram and socials now, like all of those things. It annoys the crap out of my wife, because we'll be sitting in a restaurant and I'm just constantly looking around and going, what's going on here, and she's like, just stop and enjoy it. And then the next thing I know, I'm looking around.
But you know what fascinates me and frustrates me and sometimes infuriates me when I'm paying particularly big money at a nicer restaurant. And I had this chat to Guy Grossi last year. He was a guest on the show, and we talked a lot about customer experience. And for those who don't know, Guy Grossi, one of Australia's leading sort of celebrity chefs, I suppose, and passionate about the industry. There are so many things. I look at hotels, pubs, restaurants, cafes, Stephen, and I go, okay, they've spent a lot of dough here. They've bought the premises or they're leasing the premises for a lot of dough. They do an incredible fit out for a lot of dough. They employ an awesome chef or a barista or whatever it may be for a lot of dough. And then it's that last, meter that is so often everything falls to shit. You know, it's just it's quite frustrating. In your view, what are hospitality owners getting wrong?
Well, I think people can overcapitalise. So what we do is we call it like the Swiss cheese approach, where we make a small change and then when things go well, we make another change. And in terms of refurbing, you know, we might go, okay, we're going to refurb one particular pub and we'll go, right, we'll do the saloon bar and then we'll morph into something else because it keeps the customers knowing that a pub is a real live being like your customers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So overcapitalising is one of those things. And then we've had stages where our product just wasn't right and people are like, well, you're not, you know, advertising enough. I'm like, why advertise a faulty product?
Give me an example. Where was your product broken?
I think it was to do with the food side of the business because with a pub you've got multiple businesses under one roof. You know, you've got a restaurant, you've got a bar, you can have gaming, you can have a bottle shop, you can have accommodation, you can have functions. And our food just we weren't nailing it. I don't think we had the right team there.
Mm-hmm.
So the sales weren't good. The service was slow in terms of putting your order in and how long it was taking to serve. And then, the team were like, oh, we'll do some radio ads and, pump it on socials. And I'm like, not until we get it right.
Yeah.
Without being crass, you're just advertising shit.
When something is wrong like that, and this can apply to any business, and I hope those listening are not going, oh, this guy just is a pub owner, so it doesn't apply to my jewellery business or my chiropractic business, because it bloody well does. When you come across something broken, not a little thing, not a light bulb out, but your food offering, it's stuffed or whatever it may be. How do you approach that? That's a difficult conversation that you've got to have with someone, right? It's either the head of house or the head chef or someone. Is that just something that you just walk up and say, guys, we've got to work this out, or is it something you have to tiptoe around?
Oh, no, you've got to have the tough conversations, but I think you don't have to do that if you have real-time management. So if you address situations, and we learnt this lesson that if you address them as they come up, then you can make the improvement. And then obviously having your team have buy-in. So you go, okay, here's the issues we're having at the moment. How can we fix it? And so what minimises the tough conversations is you don't have to have them as often, but also we have a set of boundaries to work within with certain meetings. And one of them is you have a master of ceremonies of the meeting, so they actually drive it. And then you can't, so if someone comes up with an idea, you can question it in an open and honest way, and you can reject the idea, but you actually have to go and research and come up with a better idea or a better solution. So what it does is just gets a positive flow-on effect. And then at the end, it's the classic meeting, everyone's pumped and, it's like, right, and goes away and gets busy doing their day-to-day things and forgets about it. So you have task allocation and when it's going to be done by the next week, and then it sort of rolls along. So having that set of rules effectively makes ownership of the team, and then also it makes it a smoother operation.
And I would have thought the magic in that idea, Stephen, is actually implementing an idea that's come from a staff member, because I've seen too many times and been a part of too many meetings where ideas are generated, but as you say, you get back to the busyness of business and the ideas get forgotten. But there's got to be some huge value. It's hard enough to attract good staff. It's even harder to retain good staff. There must be massive value in you going, hey, Jenny, that is an awesome idea. That'll be in place in 2 weeks' time. And sure enough, it is. That makes Jenny feel good and look good amongst her peers. Is that something you work hard on?
Oh, absolutely. And part of the positive spin-off is that they'll really push the promotion. Do you know what I mean? They'll get behind it.
Yes.
They'll encourage the team. So on a grassroots level, in the bar or restaurant, they'll push it. And that happens in any business. It could be a finance business where they're looking to grow super, all those sort of things. If one individual, and probably what I'm talking about, can run across every business. It's always about the people.
Well, I read somewhere where you said a staff member who earns $50,000 a year can be worth $1 million to a business. Explain that little beauty, Steve.
Well, because if you borrow $1 million, normally what you'll be paying back from the bank per year is, your interest and principal. And so that comes in at about 50 grand. So the way I look at it is if you're paying a staff member 50 grand, then they're worth $1 million. And I don't know about you, but if I spend $1 million on anything, I'm certainly making sure that I'm looking after it.
You potentially could be a scary boss, because I also read elsewhere where you have these dinners with potential senior people that you employ before you employ them. And unbeknownst to them, I'm guessing you're watching how they carry themselves at these dinners. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think you can gauge a lot about an individual just through having a meal. So it can be, what they order. In particular, I'm always keen to see how they talk to, our team. Also, it can be their presentation and the conversations. Has the person worked, are they community focused? Have they worked in sporting teams? So you can really find out a lot how they eat. Like, do they just wear their spaghetti all over their shirt? Do you know what I mean? So, and then also I don't just do that with new people. I just have, I had lunch with one of the team the other day, and one of the girls is on maternity leave. So we caught up and just had a general chat. So effectively, once you gain that trust, it's sort of more about just making sure they're okay.
Yeah, right. How would people describe you as a boss, do you think?
I think they would sort of say quite fair.
Right.
But firm at times.
Harsh but fair.
Yeah. So at times you just got to go and draw the line. I would like to think that maybe I'm generous with my time with them, because being realistic, the better the team go, the better your business goes.
100%.
100%.
What's your view on tipping? Because that's, in America, I've just been reading recently a fair bit about this, and, in America, people work very hard. Hospitality is regarded as a career job, not as opposed to here, it's regarded as maybe a stepping stone. And B, the tipping over there seems to really incentivise waiters, waitresses, hospitality people to do their absolute best. We don't do it here.
No, I do. I tip.
Right.
And my wife's like, why are you tipping so much? And I'm like, because I understand what it's like for them. We lived off tips in the UK. We were paid very little.
Yeah.
And so the harder you worked and the better you were, then the more you got tips. So I kind of understand that, a lot of the people who were preparing and serving your meals probably at that stage aren't as financially well off. It's the same with charities and things. I always just work off, if you got a little bit, give a little bit, but if you got a lot, you got to give a lot.
Fair cool. Stephen, the Australian Financial Review voted Hunt Hospitality as one of Australia's most innovative companies, which is well done on that. No mean feat. Particularly, and with all respect, for a little hospitality operation on the northern coast of New South Wales. So I think that's absolutely awesome. I love innovation. I think, again, it's that part of the business that's fun. It has the opportunity to grow a business exponentially. It brings in people to contribute so they feel as though they belong. But I'm guessing your innovation process is much more than just these meetings with an MC and asking for the next big idea. What does your innovation process look like?
Well, there's lots of different arms to innovation. There's like technology, and I think people initially just go, oh, wow, we're going to get a U-Butte ordering system and different things like that. So that is one element of it. Automation, like getting your lights automated, and you can do that so that your customer comfort levels are really good. For instance, if the lights dim at a certain time or the style of music is better at a certain time. And then you can have small innovations like, nothing is small because they all add up to something that's bigger. But my wife and I were in Ireland, and she's Irish, and we took the kids over for a holiday, and we went to a pub, and in Australia we didn't have the ordering system. You have a bistro that was set aside, and you'd have a server over there and you'd order. They come over and take your order. Well, in Ireland, this is in the early 90s, effectively you just ordered everything at the bar. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a specific spot. And we implemented that back in Australia, and it saved us $100,000 a year on wages in the first year. So that's a very small innovation. Another innovative practice we did, and we won that award with the Fin Review because we developed an online training system. So that was specifically for that. Mm-hmm. Digitising everything in the business, including emotional intelligence, how to change a keg, what to do at the end of the shift, every finer detail. Yeah. But probably one of our biggest successes to do with innovation was we bought a hotel in the central business district of Newcastle, and it was like losing about $500,000 a year. But before we bought it, we actually had the zoning of the site and we discovered that you could get 130 apartments built on the site. So there was also a law court being built up the road and a university campus. So it was kind of a potential buy. So we turned the business around and started making some money, but at the same time we had plans drawn up for that particular site. And within a 3-year period, we pretty much doubled our money.
Awesome.
And so that's an innovation in terms of, and anyone who's looking out there at a particular site, look at the zoning, see what else you can do. Because if it doesn't work for your particular business, then you've got potentially a property that may be worth a lot more.
I want to talk to you about local area marketing. Businesses that you own, I guess, have, unless they're real destination businesses where people travel from interstate or from a distance to, you know, stay overnight, you have a catchment area of, I don't know, 10, 15 kilometres. So you say that your local community is infinitely more important than social media when it comes to local area marketing, which kind of is music to my ears because I'm not a big fan of social media. But how do you engage the local community on an ongoing basis? Because I guess part of that is, and I've not been to Ireland, I've been to England and I've seen the pub culture there, and it's a very different culture over there. It seems to be, it's your lounge room if you're in London or if you're in Dublin. It's not here. Here we come and go from pubs. There'd be a core group, but the bigger group comes and goes, and I'm in that group. So how do you keep them engaged?
We sponsor a lot of, sporting teams, a lot of, clubs. We have a mothers group that comes and have their coffee in one of them. Like I discussed, chambers of commerce, and then charities. And what happens quite simply is if you look after them, then they'll look after you. Mm-hmm. So we do have a social media campaign that goes pretty well, but they use theirs to promote our business. And probably the best example I can give about that, and we start in the middle and build out. So we look on the map and go, okay, if we're looking at buying a pub, we've got this multi-factor model, but effectively what we do is pinpoint it on Google Maps and find out who's living in that specific area and then who we can target. And then as things grow out further, if you're looking after the people within that radius, then that gets bigger because everyone talks and goes word of mouth. Mm-hmm. But the best example was in COVID where we could only sell food and beverage through, takeaway, call and collect sort of thing. And we rang our local rugby club, who we heavily sponsor and we're really involved with, and said, guys, we're going to run a community day promotion tomorrow. We're going to do discount schnitzels. And they said, yeah, okay, no worries. So they got on their socials. So that was on a Wednesday. And on the Thursday, we ran the community day. And because of what they did, we sold 300 meals.
Oh, nice work.
That's just local community and being involved. And sometimes you don't physically need to spend the money, and that can be with any business. Mm-hmm. But by contributing, then that's worth a lot of money as well. So you don't physically need to hand out the cash, mm-hmm. but if you're always being seen, then you'll be the go-to person in terms of whatever your business is in the area. Sponsorship's
a funny thing, and I imagine it's part of your marketing mix where, you are getting local footy clubs and every other type of club, saying, can you throw us a few dollars? And often I see sponsorship sort of being a bit of a bottomless pit. You hand over some dough to a sporting club, you get some signage on the ground and maybe an ad in the program. But, I'm not sure that's going to build a business too well. Is there anything that you do specifically when you sponsor something locally that ensures that you do get a good return?
Well, I think it's if they're new, you find out what they did previously. And also, if you gel with the people, then if you gel with them, they're going to look after you.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more than just, saying, okay, we're going to pay the rugby club $20,000 a year. And also, I guess the final thing is you make them accountable. Mm-hmm. You say, come on, guys, we're putting a lot in for you. But if you're doing it with clubs where there's decent people, they just do it for you. Like I live 40 kilometres from the pub I'm in now, and when the guys I've got one near home. So when they come into the city, they go, they ring me up and go, what's your pub in the city? And I'm like, oh, we'll come to the Kent. They're like, okay. I'll go, do you want me to make a booking for you? And they go, okay, 10 people. And then, they do it because they're decent people. So, yeah, but you're kind of looking at the clubs very closely before you sort of get involved with them.
Steve, you've written a book. I'm having a blonde moment here right now. The name of it is?
Yeah, it's Find, Build, Sell.
Find, Build, Sell. Why'd you write it?
I was kind of sharing my experiences with a lot of my schoolmates, and we were reminiscing about
Geez, you are quite the technocrat.
Yeah. We're very advanced. I found it, 20 minutes to work out how to log into this. So, we were just having a chat and reminiscing, and one of my mates at the time when we were doing the backyard beer, he said, "You're going to have a lot of pubs one day, Steve. This is going to be it for you." And I remember having that discussion with him, and he was saying, "How's it all going?" And I told them the story about, how we'd gradually developed, and they sort of said that's, 3 or 4 of them said that's really interesting. And I said, "Oh, maybe I'll just jot down a few things." And so I did a bit of a timeline of my career and, successes and failures over that time, like having a family of accountants. It was literally in an Excel with the year and then what happened. And then I just expanded it on that year and, things just grew more and more. And then I just thought, I'll sort of expand that out. And lo and behold, 18 months later, I had a book.
What do you hope the book achieves for you?
It really is to help people. So, there's a bit of marketing because you write a book and people, end up having great conversations with people like yourself. Yeah. And I do a lot of presentations anyway. I just did one in Vegas and I was lined up to do that before I had the book, but I certainly flogged the hell out of it when I was there. In fact, we've had quite good sales in the States, which is awesome. Yeah. But if some people learn how to run a business and to be successful through the book, then I'll be over the moon with that.
Is it a book for other publicans or is it a book for other business owners?
Anyone can take this. Good. Anyone in any industry, if you get the fundamentals right, which is always the people first. Yeah. You can use the marketing tools by, dealing with a local community and extend that out, and by being seen, and then by being in the right room. Like, people always think, got to have a lot of money to make it, but you don't to start with if you just grind. Hard work. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that beats hard work.
That beats it. What a bummer, hey?
Yeah, that's right. It's only been in the last 7 years that my company has just expanded in value, really, since I set up the fund. But it took me 23 years to get to that stage. The
fund, we haven't spoken about the fund. So you have a, what do you call it? Is it an investment fund that all 7 of your properties are in? Yeah, explain how that works.
I have 4 in the fund and then 3 outside. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I started in 2017. 2015. Mm-hmm. So I had, I found this local bar and I was really interested. And it's quite a good pub. And then I had a bit of success with selling a residential property I had in Sydney. And so I thought, I've got close to 10% of the purchase price here. I'll see if I can fundraise for the rest and then buy the bar. So I set up a fund. I'd actually been, to start with, and I haven't said this to my one of my mentors, but I sat in one of his investor meetings and looked at it. I'd recently read another prospectus and I went, I'm going to talk to my lawyer and accountant, and we did a hybrid of that. So we made sure it ticked all the boxes with corporation law. And then I had to raise $1 million in a day, which was really hair-raising. Otherwise, I would have got my arse suit off. So that started the fund, and then we got it revalued really quickly, and the pub, had grown in value by 20% in 6 months. And then investors were like, well, Steve, buy more pubs. So we bought 2 more pubs. So within 3 years, we were worth $21 million. Mm-hmm. And then we had a revaluation, and it was worth 25. And then we bought more pubs, and it just sort of created this. It's not an animal; it's a great business. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So that was sort of the fund.
Got it.
Growth trajectory.
Well, Steve, it's a great story, buddy. Well done. Looking back, $100 beer garden in your mum and dad's backyard, and here you are today running bloody funds with pubs in them and owning 7 of them, and you got a big smile on your dial. So congratulations, buddy. If people want to find out more, you can go to hunthospitality.com.au. It's a pretty good website for a little hospitality business. There's plenty of good, again, business information there. There's even a blog. It's unheard of. And the book Find, Build, Sell, I'm sure, is on Booktopia and all those other outlets. Hey, Steve, thanks for sharing, buddy.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, there you go, team. One of the smarter publicans going around, I'd have to say. Stephen Hunt of Hunt Hospitality. What a good fellow. You'll find links to any resources and interviews mentioned in that interview over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/590. Personally, I love Stephen's ethos around making people's day. I love his idea of always making sure you're in the right room, surrounded by the right people. Get a few mentors, get a few trusted advisors. You can't do it all yourself. That's why you listen to this podcast. And I love Stephen's view that an employee earning $50K a year is worth $1 million a year to the business. I love a bit of lateral thinking. Give me a buzz and tell me what grabbed your attention. Or maybe you'd like to share a marketing tactic that's working for you. Just call the Small Business Big Marketing hotline on 0480 015 150. Go and whack it in your phone. 0480 015 150. Just like long-time listener and physiotherapist Billy Troy did.
G'day, Timbo. It's Billy Troy here from Golf Physiotherapy Australia. A massive thank you for having the podcast show. It's been a huge help for me, and I've been a long-time listener of the show. So I thought I'd give some takeaways from one of my favourite episodes, or three of my favourite episodes, actually. So first it was Carolyn Creswell from Carmen's Muesli. I love how dedicated she is to growth and also how she treats her staff. I think that was awesome to hear. My other favourite episode was Seth Godin. So I've read a couple of his books, and I think he's amazing. He's pretty straight to the point. And he's one of the best marketers I think I've listened to and read. And also Brad Beer, as he's related to my field as a physiotherapist. I love how he puts an emphasis on his marketing, and his growth towards his business seems like it's unparalleled. So also for me, as my golf business continues to grow, some of the things I try and do is always trying to over-deliver to my clients, not just settling for second best. In the last year, I've really tried to thank customers for using our services. So typically I try and give them away a hat or a branded drink bottle. And it's funny, the more that you typically give away, the more that you get back, even if it is something small. And I think giving feels great. So it's something I'll continue to do more. And then lastly, it's just simply trying to be better each year. So always at our business here, I'm trying to innovate. I'm trying to get better, doing more courses, doing more study in the golf physiotherapy space to make the client's experience as good as possible. So thanks so much, mate. I appreciate it, and well done on the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Billy, for taking the time to send me that message. Great learnings, brother, from three very different episodes. Well, two of those guests on those episodes are outside of your industry, which is where, as you know, I always believe the great ideas are. Carolyn Creswell, Seth Godin, Brad Beer, they're all amazing. And that whole notion, Billy, of over-delivering, showing gratitude, giving does feel great. I think we need to do it more. I have to figure out an episode on giving and gratitude. Who would I interview? If you've got any ideas, let me know on the Small Business Big Marketing hotline. You'll find links to those episodes over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/590. Everyone else, give us a buzz. Tell us how you're doing. Next week, we catch up with Tom Griffith. He's the Tom from the legendary Emma and Tom's Juice brand, and he has got some wonderful, wonderful business insights to share with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That helps a lot. What helps even more is if you leave a review about the show on your favourite podcast app. What helps even more is if it's a 5-star review and not a 1-star. You with me? You'll also find 589 more chats with successful business owners on your favourite podcast app as well. If you're ready to create some helpful marketing, then be sure to grab a copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can sign up for all future webinars as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.